Any health-related information on the following show provides general information only. Content presented on any show by any host or guest should not be substituted for a doctor's advice. Always consult your physician before beginning any new diet, exercise, or treatment program.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Inspired and Empowered Living TV show and podcast. We are live Thursdays at 5 p.m. Eastern on talk4tv.com, w4wn.com, and my YouTube channel. And today we are going to be talking about the power of your voice. Communicate with confidence, clarity, and compassion. And we will explore how effective communication can elevate every part of your business and personal life. And whether you're on stage, on a sales call, or in a solo line conversation, or whether you're connecting with friends, family, or your partner, your voice is your superpower. Learn how to use it with intention, integrity, and impact. So, welcome. And I'm Nanci Deutsch. I'm the host of the show. And I combine my counseling, coaching, and intuitive abilities. I'm a licensed clinical social worker, certified hypnotherapist, and an intuitive business coach. And this show is not a replacement for therapy or counseling. It is for educational purposes only. So some of you may remember that we were going to have a show where we were going to have guests. I mentioned it last week. Unfortunately, we had to change plans. And so now you have me this week for communication. I was getting really clearly guided that we needed to talk about communication and the power of your voice and how to communicate. Like I said, with that communication with compassion and clarity and speaking up with confidence. So first, let me share with you your voice. Your voice conveys what you're feeling and what your energy is really clearly. And you can hear, feel, and sense what somebody is communicating through the voice and what you're communicating. And what happens with your voice is not only are you communicating from that conscious place, but your voice is also communicating from that subconscious place. So for those of you who may just be joining in, let me do a quick recap, Psych 101, so that we're all on the same track. Your conscious mind is the part of you that the moment it is the part of you that's made the decisions and that made the decision to come on today, to be here. So thank you, conscious mind. And it is that part of you that empowers you to make those decisions. And I see we have Misty in the house. Hi, Misty. Glad you're here. And then you have your subconscious mind. And your subconscious mind is the part of you from the moment you were conceived to present time has recorded everything that you have when you've been alive, and and your subconscious mind is what we need to understand more when we're in communicating with our voice. And because those patterns get communicated without you consciously realizing it. And then you have your superconscious mind, which is the part of you that is greater. It's your higher self, the wise, unconditionally loving part of you, your soul, and also the angels and guides and beings of light. And I know that we have Anastasia in the house too, because she said, I'm listening too. So thank you for letting me know you're here too, Anastasia. I love when you guys let me know that you're listening so that I know that you're here. I really do appreciate it. So thank you. and and so your voice is conveying what's going on for you consciously and subconsciously all the time. So, for example, when you are, I'm going to say when you're trying to act confident, but you're really not feeling that confidence, and your voice will convey it. And there will be subtleties in that communication, and people can pick it up that you're not feeling confident. And I also know your voice when you go into reaction. And what I mean, like when you get triggered or when you're reacting to someone or something, and all of a sudden, like you'll be fine, and then you'll have this tone in your voice, or you're feeling scattered, or you're feeling disconnected, or you're feeling fear, or you're feeling angry. I mean, how many of you, when you get triggered, you notice, and maybe you don't even notice, your tone of voice changes? Or when you're communicating with someone and you may say something that really pisses them off and makes them angry, and all of a sudden you hear a tone in their voice. Or when you hear somebody's tone of voice and you get really triggered. And I know that that's happened for me. When I'll be with certain people in my life, like I have a really close friend, I'll call her Susanna. And Susanna can have this tone in her voice. And as soon as she has that tone in her voice, and it's like this angry tone, I get triggered. And I don't always react. Sometimes I do, sometimes I don't. I'm working on it too. Just want you all to know I'm human too, working on my stuff. And so when that tone of voice, when I hear it, I get really triggered. And so what happens is that I need to take a breath, and sometimes I may need to disconnect from her. I may need to take a time out, a break, and discover what's being triggered. Because when that tone of voice happens for you or someone else, there's something that you're reacting to, and you've gotten triggered, and that trigger comes from your subconscious mind. Now, so when you're feeling confident and you know what you're talking about, or you're feeling really loving or kind or compassionate, your voice, your energy, your love comes through. You can't hide your voice. You may try, but the truth of the matter is, the truth comes out. And so, for example, what you want to do is you want to be able to make sure that you're speaking from alignment. And I know that we talk about being grounded and centered and aligned. And when you're in the alignment, then you can speak with confidence and clarity and compassion. And when you're feeling grounded and centered, and when you're not, like when you get triggered or you're reacting to something and you start like totally getting distracted, it's learning how to come back into that alignment, coming back into that place of peace, or coming back into the place of, I got this. I'm feeling confident. Now, when you're doing something new, or when you're doing something, whether it's your business or whether it's your a conversation that you have with someone and you're really nervous about that conversation. Now, in business, very often conversations around money or around sales, even, and I will tell you, money conversations, whether it's business or life, those conversations can really trigger that a certain tone of voice. And it may be the scary tone of voice, and maybe that it depends on who you are or what who you're talking to. And when you have those money issues, that tone of voice is going to come through. And here's the thing, this is not about being perfect and always having the perfect voice, because that's not real. The real truth is you're human. And it's the most important thing here is for you to become aware of what's happening for you. Because when you become aware, then you can take an action to self-correct. So Misty has a question or a comment. It's not easy to judge. It's not easy to judge the tone in some people's voice. It's best to ask if you aren't sure. So, Misty, that is a really good point. Okay. So, what I'm going to say is you are correct. If you're not sure what the tone of voice is, yes, definitely you want to ask somebody. You don't want to jump to assumptions, especially when you're having an important conversation with someone and you're not sure what they're feeling or what they're thinking and what they're implying by the tone of their voice. You are correct, Misty. It is best to ask what are you feeling, what's going on. And here's the thing, you want to ask in a way, you this is really important in the tone of voice and communicating with compassion and clarity and confidence, is you want to ask from a curious place. I'm wondering what you're feeling right now. And if somebody says, no, I'm not feeling anything, well, then they may be in denial of what they're feeling, because that sounds like really angry to me. Now, hopefully they're aware. Now, once they acknowledge what they're feeling, here's the thing. It's about acknowledging or helping someone to express what they're feeling in a healthy way, and then have you express what you're feeling in a healthy way, so that you can have healthy communication. And we're going to talk more about that shortly. Okay. So and when you are in communication, uh Charles says, I misread my wife's voice all the time, apparently. Okay, so Charles, best thing for you to do is to keep asking, I wonder, what are you really feeling, or what is it you're trying to communicate? And here's the thing, I will tell you that, and this is something that it's important to become aware of. Sometimes there have been communication patterns in people, especially women, when they don't know how to communicate in a clear, healthy way, and they may sidetrack or miscommunicate or go around. And what I really want to support all of you in doing, and this is not just women, but sometimes I know from those that I have worked with, not just me as a woman, but those that I've worked with, that women have had a challenge in communicating clearly because it wasn't okay for a woman to speak her truth or have a voice. Now, thank you that is changing, but some women may still be in that pattern to be aware of. And or it may be a pattern you may still have if you're a woman, or even if you're a man. Like, if you didn't have a voice as a child, you may very well be expressing in a way that's not clear. There's something called mixed messages, and mixed messages, you may have one intention and then communicate in another. So what the listener is confused. So that's why it's really important that when you want to communicate clearly, that you are really clear, that you are communicating from an aligned space, communicating with clarity and confidence, and also compassion. And I know Charles said, I know what she means, but I don't always listen, so I know it's on me. So Charles, I really want to acknowledge you for owning that. So what I'm hearing, and to see if this is true, is that, and this isn't only you, is that in partnerships, what happens is sometimes we start not listening to our partner, and we start ignoring, or maybe you're not being present. And what I want to support all of you in doing is that, if, let's say, you're busy doing something else, but your partner starts, and this is not only partners but friends, or important conversations that you have, and if there is something that you want to make sure that both of you are communicating in a clear, confident, compassionate way, you want to make sure that both of you are present. And if one or both of you are trying to multitasking, or you're distracted, that is not a good time to communicate. So, Charles, I don't know what's going on in the relationship, but if you're trying to focus on something else and she's wanting to talk to you, what if you were to communicate, honey, I really want to hear what you have to say. And can you give me, I'm watching my show, or I have this piece of work that I need to do, or let's talk in about a half an hour. Or if it's a really serious conversation, or a really more in-depth conversation, then maybe you need to plan it or schedule it for another day. But if it's something where it's about connection time, then you want to be present to really connect with your loved one, whether it's a partner, a friend, a relative in some way. You want to be present, whether it's a child, whether it's a young child or an adult child. It's really important to have presence. presence, that's being able to really be in the moment with the person as they're speaking. So hopefully, and hopefully that helped Charles. And and the other thing is there are times where I know I have clients and they've had a busy, crazy day at work, and they need to decompress before they can communicate to anybody in the family, whether it's a child or a partner, a spouse. They're like, I need time. And I've said, you need to communicate with your family. You need 10 minutes, 15 minutes, a half an hour decompression time where you give me space so that I can regroup. And again, that's all important communication. And we're going to talk more about boundaries also and communicating your boundaries. So the bottom line is, whether it's in your life or in your business, you want to make sure the way you want to be communicating with confidence and clarity and compassion is from that aligned place, from a place where you are feeling present, centered, connected. And the feelings would be, you're feeling confident, you know what you want to say, or you're feeling peaceful. Now, when you're having hard conversations, you may not always go into the conversation feeling that. And what I coach my clients to do is, before they go into a conversation that could be a really difficult one, I say, imagine sending light to that conversation. Imagine and ask for your guides and your angels, and most of all, your higher self, the wise, unconditionally loving part of you that communicates with confidence, clarity, and compassion. You want to be communicating from an adult, higher self place. So, and that's really important when you have those important conversations. And when you, and here's the thing, you want to communicate from a heart-centered place. Now, when you're in a relationship, any relationship, and it could be a partner, loved one, family, friends, or it could be, and I see your question, Charles, I'll get to in a sec, or statement. It could be a business relationship. You want to make sure that you're in that compassionate, heart-centered place. And again, the best way to do that is to call in your higher self and to come from that place. And we'll talk a little bit more about that shortly. And I just want to get to Charles. No issues in our relationship. I just like to pick on my wife, and I know she is listening to your show. Okay, so I am glad, Charles, that you don't have any really deep issues, and that's good. But I do also want you to know that whether you have issues or not in your relationship, there are going to be times where you're going to want to communicate, and you want to have that communication time. So make time for yourself. Like, I know in this crazy busy world, one of the biggest things that couples, that one of the best things for your relationship, your partnership, is to make time for each other. And when you make time for each other and you have that real communication time, it grows the relationship, intimacy grows. And so I really want to support you all to be able to make that time for your partner. And whether you have issues or not, that's something to keep in mind, because in our crazy busy life, you have work and you may have kids and you may have other relatives or other demands on your time. And sometimes, unfortunately, couple time becomes the last on the list. And so I am supporting all of you. If you are in a relationship, make couple time, make partnership time. Okay, Charles goes, listening to your show is fun for us. Even though we are not in the same place, we listen at the same time. I love that. You know what? Thank you so much, Charles. And thank you, Charles's wife, wherever you are. I that really feels really good to know that you're both listening, even though you're not in the same place. And that I appreciate hearing that. So thank you, Charles. And Charles's wife, whatever your name is. So I'm really glad to hear that. Thank you. I want you to know, and you can hear it in my voice. Like you, I do not, okay, I do not have a poker face, nor do I have a poker voice. And you can hear and feel the tones in my voice when I'm feeling different things. And I really want you to know how much I appreciate all of you who listen live. I appreciate all of you who are listening to the podcast or watching YouTube at a later time. Your contributions, your listening to me makes a difference for me to know that I'm making a difference for you. So I just really want to say thank you. So just wanted to express my gratitude. Thank you, Charles, for bringing that on. So, and there was a heart-centered communication right there. And I get really touched by all of you listeners. I mean, I am so appreciative of you. I really am. So thank you for being here. Now or later. So what happens when you're speaking from your heart and you're able to speak from that place of heart? What happens is you know that you're speaking from your heart and you're conveying integrity. You're conveying honesty and truth. And what happens when you do that, it builds rapport. It builds that place where people get a sense of who you are and how you are quickly. So if it's your business and you're wanting to be better in your business, you want to make sure that you are communicating from that aligned space. And in your life, I want you all to know that when you communicate that from a place of presence, whether it's a coworker or a friend or a partner, you make a difference in someone's life. Like you listeners and viewers, you make a difference in my life. And I want you to know that when you do what you do and you're being present with someone else and you're communicating with that intention of integrity and clarity and heart, and you communicate emotions in a safe way, and you're able to really express yourself from that safe place, you make a difference. And you make a difference. And those of you who have listened to the show and have been listening, and that you start communicating differently, I want you to know that it makes a difference in the people in your life. And so keep showing up, keep doing what you're doing, because you make the changes. When you make the changes in yourself, you can change your relationships on every level. Your personal relationships, your professional relationships, in all ways. So I really, really want to support all of you in remembering that. And then there's the voice blocks. Like, what would block your voice? And before we get to that, I am going to put a plug in for the meditation that I created to help you get more clarity, to help you to tune in and to feel calmer and to connect with your higher self, and then to get in touch with your ability to discover the communication that your higher self is trying to tell you. And so if you go, the name of the show, inspired and empowered living.com/meditation, meditation. So inspired and empowered living.com/meditation. And you want to download the meditation. There's also a PDF for it. And that can really help you in being able to calm yourself and center yourself so that you can have the clear, confident communication with compassion that you really want. And Rebel put the links in the chat. So, what happens when there's blocks in your voice? And what kind of blocks could show up? Well, one of the blocks is a big block, is that fear of judgment. And when you have the fear of judgment, what might happen is you may stay quiet and not speak up. Or maybe you have that quiet voice. Or what I was talking about earlier with women, that when they're not communicating clearly, that they'll kind of say something without a very clear, direct way of being. That's because of that fear of judgment. So if you have fear of judgment and you are afraid to speak up, afraid to speak your truth, or you're not allowing yourself to communicate clearly what your truth is, what your real needs are, what your real feelings are, what your real wants are, or if in your business you're not communicating your programs, or you're not communicating your with clarity because you're not sure of your target market or your niche, then you may not be communicating clearly, and that will affect your tone of voice, or even if you will speak up. So I know we have a question from Anastasia. So Anastasia, why do we care so much about what others think of us? Okay. So we care so much about what others think is because we've grown up that way. Most of us grew up in families where we wanted to be loved, we wanted to be approved of, and that is a common human element that and then many of us, if not most of us, The fear of judgment. Guess who it came from? Your parents or your caretakers or the people who took care of you? You would know when they were judging you. You would know when they disapproved of you. That tone, how many of you, as soon as you hear that tone of voice, like remember I was talking about my friend earlier, and she would have that tone of voice and it would trigger me. I know she was triggering my mother because my mother would have that critical tone of voice. And as soon as she had that critical tone of voice, I was like, and it would trigger me. Now I as I got older, I started getting angry. When I was younger, I went into fear. Now that critical tone of voice, that fear of judging. And then there was my father who, and listen, I love my parents. God bless them, they're in heaven. But I will tell you that I know that my father, I could tell when my father had that judgmental, but not only the tone of voice, but what he was saying. And I could feel that judgment a mile away. So we are so sensitive. Most of us are so sensitive to the judgment because of how we grew up. And one of the basic human needs is the need for love and the need to be loved and that need for approval. And one of the important things is learning to let go of the fear of judgment. And the more that you can let it go, the more that allows you to be able to speak your truth, to speak and express your feelings, to speak and express your thoughts, your wants, your needs. And I'm going to give you an example from my own life, doing examples from myself. So when I was first in therapy years and years ago, when I first went into therapy with my first therapist, I was terrified of anger. And I was so scared of anger. And the reason why I was so scared of anger was because my mother was a rager. And she would scream and yell at me and my brothers. And so there was the critical voice, and then there was the raging voice, and that tone of voice. And the tone of voice sometimes would come right before the rage. And I did not want her to go into the rage. And so I shut down, and I totally shut down. And I was terrified of anger. And it took me a long time in therapy to be okay with anger. In fact, what really helped me a lot was not only doing therapy, but I started doing more and more emotional release work where I'd start feeling the sensations of what anger felt like in my body. And a lot of times you'll feel the anger in your voice, in your jaw. Like if you start feeling, or your teeth, and you're like, you're clenching, you're holding in that anger. And sometimes you don't even realize that you're angry. And that's also why that tone of voice can come out. And so it's very common to have that fear of judgment. Know that you're not alone. Most people have it. It's common. And so it's learning to recognize that you do have the fear of judgment, which is affecting your ability to communicate clearly what you're feeling, what you're thinking, what your wants, what your needs are. Like if you're in a relationship and you have different needs than your partner, or whether it's a relationship, a romantic relationship, or a business partner. And you have different needs than your partner. If you haven't learned to communicate clearly, what could happen is you suppress it, you suppress it, you suppress it, and then you may explode. And so that's why what I want to support all of you in doing is learning to become aware that you may have that anger so that you then can start becoming aware of what you can do before you explode. Now, where that came from, you know what happens is I answer a question and I just go in the flow of what's coming. So I think, and we're going to, you know what, we're going to talk more about this next week. We're going to have part 2 of communication, the power of your voice, and communicating clearly so that you're feeling more confident, that you're communicating with clarity and compassion. And Anastasia, we're going to start with your question because it's an important question of why and what to do about that fear of judgment. Because, like I said, it's a very common human issue. And that fear of judgment shuts you down, and it will affect how you are in your life, how you are in your business, how you are in every relationship. So, to be continued next week for part 2. And I really want to say thank you again for joining us for the Inspired and Empowered Living TV show and podcast. We are live Thursdays at 5 p.m. Eastern on talk4tv.com, w4wn.com, and my YouTube channel. And we also, you can hear us on the podcast. And the podcast is on iHeartRadio, Spotify, Pandora, Apple, Amazon, and many more. And so I am thanking you, acknowledging you for being here, and wishing you an inspired and empowered day, an inspired and empowered evening and week. Have a great one. Bye for now.